हेलो दोस्तों, बिजनेस माइंड में आपका स्वागत है। और अभी हम कर रहे हैं चैप्टर 7। ठीक है। इससे पहले एक चैप्टर नहीं देखे तो प्लेलिस्ट बना दिया, वो जाकर आप देख सकते हैं। पॉलिटी के नाम से है क्योंकि पॉलिटी पर ज़्यादा फोकस है। बाद में भी जब 6th से लेकर के 12th तक की कंप्लीट पॉलिटी भी इसमें ही कवर हो जाएगी। 6 से लेकर 8 तक में सोशल साइंस है और 9 से लेकर 12 तक पॉलिटी है। तो 6 से लेकर 8 तक जितने भी पॉलिटी का पार्ट है वो सब इसमें ही कवर हो जाएगा, इसलिए पॉलिटी नाम दिया। इंडियाज कल्चरल रूट्स, दैट विच कैन नॉट बी स्टोलन, दैट विच कैन नॉट बी कन्फिस्केटेड, मतलब कि जब्त करना। By rulers, that which is not a burden, as it does not weigh anything, that which, though it is used, only grows every day, that is the greatest wealth of all, the wealth of true knowledge. A rishi from Hampi, Karnataka, the Buddha from Bhutan, Mahavira from Bihar. Spirituals concerned with the spirit or soul. Spirituality is the search for a deeper or higher dimension beyond our current personality. Indian culture, by any estimate, is several millenniums old. Like any ancient tree, it has many roots and many branches. The roots nature a common trunk, and from the trunk there emerge many branches which are different manifestations of Indian culture, yet united by a common trunk. Some of these branches are about art, literature, science, medicine, religion, the art of governance, material arts, martial arts, and so on. There are also schools of thought, by which we mean groups of thinkers or spiritual seekers who share similar ideas about human life, the world, etc. Seeker, someone who seeks the truth of the world. This could be a Sikh, a saint, a yogi, or philosopher, etc. Many archaeologists and scholars have pointed out that some of India's cultural roots go all the way to the Indus or Harappan or Sindhu Sravasti civilization, which we visit in chapter 6 later on. Over time, hundreds of schools of throughout emerged in India. We will see here a few early schools which have shaped India into a country with a unique personality. By understanding them and their roots, we can understand India, that is Bharat, better. The Vedas and Vedic culture. What are the Vedas? The word Veda comes from the Sanskrit Ved, which means knowledge. Hence, Veda, for instance, we briefly mentioned the Rig Veda in earlier chapters. In fact, there are four Vedas: the Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda. They are the most ancient text of India and indeed among the most ancient in the world. The Vedas consist of thousands of hymns, prayers in the form of poems and songs that were recited originally not written. Those hymns were composed in Sapta Sindhava region, which we visit in chapter 5. It is difficult to say when exactly the Rig Veda, the most ancient of the four, was composed. Experts have proposed dates ranging from the 5th to the 2nd millennium BCE. So far anything between 100 and 200 generations, these texts have been committed to memory through rigorous training and passed on orally with hardly any alterations. The meticulous transmission over thousands of years explains why in 2008 UNESCO recognized Vedic chanting as a masterpiece of the oral and intangible heritage of humanity. The Vedic hymns were composed by rishis, male seers or Sikhs, and rishikas, female one, in early form of the Sanskrit language. They were addressed in political form to many deities, gods or goddesses such as Indra, Agni, Varuna, Mitra, Shravasti, Usha, and many more. Together with the seers, these deities sustained rhythm or truth and order in human life and its cosmos. The early rishis and rishikas saw those gods and goddesses as one, not separate beings. As one famous hymn puts it, Ekam Sat Vipara Buddha Vadanti. The existent, that is, the supreme reality is one, but Sikhs give it many names. In this worldview, some values were especially important, beginning with truth, which was often another name for God. The last mantra verses of the Rig Veda also call for unity among people. Worldwide, a certain view or understanding of the world, its origin of or its working. Come together, speak together, come on, be your mind, may your thoughts agree. United be your purpose, united your heart, may your thoughts be united, so all may agree. Early Vedic society was organized in different janas or clans, that is, larger groups of people. The Rig Veda alone lists over 30 such jans. For instance, the Bhartas, the Purush, the Kurush, the Yadus, the Prabhus, etc. Each clan was associated with the particular region of the northwest part of subcontinent. ये पहले पढ़ाई था उपनिषद यहाँ तक है. बर्थ ऑफ बुद्धा महावीर एंड महावीरा. वैदिक स्कूल्स ऑफ थॉट्स यहाँ से स्टार्ट कहाँ से स्टार्ट होगा यहाँ पर है. Not much in is known of how these Jains governed their society. The Veda only give us a few clues through words like Raja, a king ruler, Sabha, and Samati, both which refer to collective gathering or assembly. Many professions are mentioned in the Vedic texts, such as agriculturist, weaver, potter, builder, carpenter, healer, dancer, barber, priest, etc. Vedic schools of thought. Vedic culture also developed many rituals. Yajna, often read as yagya, directed towards various deities, gods, or goddess for individual or collective benefit and well-being. Daily rituals were generally in the form of prayers and offering to Agni, the deity associated with fire, but those rituals became more and more complex in the course of time. A group of texts known as Upanishads built upon Vedic concepts and introduced new ones, such as rebirth, taking birth again and again, and karma, our actions or their results, according to one school of thoughts generally known as Vedanta. Everything, human life, nature, and the universe, is one divine essence called Brahman, not be confused with the god Brahma, or sometimes just Tat, means that. Two well-known mantra express this in a simple but profound way. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. That is to say, I am divine. Tat Tavam Asi, you are that. The Upanishad also introduced the concept of Atman or self, the divine essence that resides in every being but is ultimately one with Brahma. It follows that everything in this world is connected and interdependent. This explains a common prayer that begins with Sarve Bhutanu Sukhina, or may all creatures be happy, and goes on to wish them all to be free from disease and sorrow. Early in the first millennium BCE, several more schools of thought grew out of the Vedas. One of them was yoga, which developed methods intended to achieve the realization of Brahman in one's consciousness. Together, these schools of thought became the foundations for what we call Hinduism today. Buddhism, other schools of thought also emerged, which did not accept the authority of Vedas and developed through their own systems. One of them, Buddhism. About 2.5 million ago, a young prince named Siddhartha Gautam was born in Lumbini, today in Nepal. Many stories from the Upanishad tells us the importance of asking questions, whether these questions came from men, women, or children. Ketu and the seed of reality. Chandogya Upanishad, Rishi Udalaka Aruni sent his son Ketu to a Gurukula to learn the Vedas. When Ketu returned 12 years later, his father realized he had become very proud of his learning. So, Uddalaka tested him with questions on the nature of Brahman, which Ketu could not answer. Udalaka proceeded to explain how Brahman, though invisible, is everywhere, just as the seed of a banyan fruit seems empty when you open it, but already contains the future banyan tree, or just as all kinds of different pots can be made out of the same clay. Similarly, everything around us has emerged from the same essence, Brahman. He concluded his teaching with these words: everything consists of this subtle essence. You are that Shivanketu. Nachiketa and his quest. Katha Upanishad. Once a man was giving away all his possessions in a ritual. As his son Nachiketa kept asking him which god he would be offered to, the father became angry and answered, I gave you to Yama, that is, to the god of death. Nachiketa then proceeded to Yama's world and after a long wait met the mighty god. One question was on his mind: what happens after the death of the body? Yama tried to avoid answering, but the boy persisted. Please, Yama, explain that the Atma or self is hidden within all creatures. It is neither born nor does it die. It is immortal. Having acquired this profound knowledge, Nachiketa returned to his father, who welcomed him joyfully. The debate of Gargi and Yajnavalkya. Once the wise king Janaka announced a prize for the winner of philosophical debate. Yajnavalkya, a renowned rishi, came to the king's court and defeated many scholars until Gargi, a rishika, asked him a series of questions on the nature of the world and finally on the nature of Brahman. At that point, Yajnavalkya asked her to stop asking further questions. Later, however, Gargi resumed her questions and Yajnavalkya went on to explain how Brahman is what makes the world, the seasons, the rivers, and everything else possible. Depending on the sources they use, scholars have come up with widely different conclusions as regards the precise year of his birth. In chapter 4, we choose 560 BCE as an approximate year. In any case, it makes no difference to our story here. As the story goes, then Siddhartha Gautam grew up, living a protected life in the palace. Only one day, at the age of 29, he asked to be driven through the city in a chariot, and for the first time in his life came across an old man, a sick man, and a dead body. He also saw an ascetic who appeared to be happy and at peace. Following this experience, Siddhartha decided to give up his place life, leaving behind his wife and son, traveling on foot as an ascetic, meeting other ascetics and scholars. He researched, he searched for the root cause of suffering in human life. After meditating for many days under a peepal tree at Bodh Gaya, today in Bihar, he attained enlightenment. He realized that avidya, ignorance, and attachment are the source of human suffering and conceived a method to remove these two causes. Siddhartha then became known as Buddha, which means the enlightened or awakened one. The Buddha started teaching that he had realized, including the idea of ahimsa, which is generally translated as non-violence, but originally means non-hurting or non-injuring. He also insisted on a sincere inner discipline. The following saying of his express this simply: the बुद्ध टीचिंग अजंता केव्स में ये फोटो जो है बनी हुई है. Not by water is one made pure, though many people may bathe here in sacred rivers, but in sacred rivers. But one is pure in whom truth and dharma are reside. Conquering oneself is greater than conquering 1,000 men on the battlefield 1,000 times. The Buddha founded the Sangha, a community of bhikshu or monks, and later bhikshunis or nuns, who dedicated themselves to practicing and spreading his teaching. His influence on India and indeed the whole of Asia was enormous, as we will discover later. It is it is still perceptible today. Known the female equivalent of a monk. Monk, a man who giving up the usual life in the world dedicates himself to religious or spiritual pursuits. A monk usually takes vows, that is, commits himself to follow strict rules for a disciplined life. Jainism is another important school of thought that became widespread at the same time, although its roots are said to be much more ancient, just like Siddhartha Gautama, Prince Vardhmana was born into a royal family in the early 6th century BCE. His birthplace was near the city of Vaishali in modern-day Bihar. At the age of 30, he decided to leave his home and go in search of spiritual knowledge. He practiced an ascetic discipline and after 12 years achieved infinite knowledge or supreme wisdom. He became known as Mahavira or Great Hero and started preaching what he had realized. Jain teaching include ahisma, anantaveda, and aparigraha. These ideas share to a large extent with Buddhism, and the Vedantic school of thought are central of Indian culture. The first may be illustrated by this saying of Mahavira: all breathing, existing, living, sentient creatures should not be slain, nor treated with violence, nor abused, nor tormented, nor driven away. Let us define the last two in simple terms. Ankentattvada means not just one aspect or perspective. That is, the truth has many aspects and cannot be fully described by a single statement. Apahagira means non-possession and advice detachment from material possessions, limiting oneself to what is truly necessary in life. Jainism also incites one of on the interconnectedness and interdependence of all creatures, from humans to invisible organisms, as they support each other and cannot live without one another. Scientists studying nature, flora and fauna have again and again confirmed this depth. और इसके आगे करेंगे अब कल.